This is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask with your host, Dr. Judith Briles. On the show today, you'll find out where book publishing is going and how to take advantage of it. How to identify and avoid publishing predators. What opportunities are emerging as the book trade evolves in new forms. How to avoid losing money and much, much more. Join us now as a variety of publishing pros will deliver insights and strategies to take the author to the next level of publishing. It's your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. Brought to you by AuthorU and the Book Shepherd. And now, here's your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
Well, happy publishing to all of you. It's another great day on the AuthorU-Your Guide to Publishing show. And the reason why it is we have someone who hasn't been with us for a long, long time. And I thought it would be perfect for a couple of ways. One, we are going to kiss on before the show's over a lot of the word trippers that you all get caught up in. And we don't want to be stuck in cliche land or misusing words. So our guest has a new book coming out on that, and we're going to talk about that. But she also has a killer book called The Frugal Book Promoter. And Carolyn Howard Johnson has been working with authors, I'm going to say Carolyn a gazillion years, like me, but just, you know, how to really how to do it frugally without breaking your checkbook in just about anything, whether it's putting together your book, whether it's publishing, whether it's marketing and even publicity, which could all take mega amounts of money that people never really even anticipated that was in the play. And I thought during these COVID times that we're in, that it would really be a good idea to go back and say, okay, so what can we do? What can we do during the time of COVID to market our books? But also, what can we do it on a frugal, not painful to our bank accounts? So with that said, let me tell you a little about Carolyn. She herself is an multi award-winning author of the series How to Do It Frugally books. She has been included in USA Book News winner for her book, which we're going to kiss on, The Frugal Book Promoter, which is now in its third edition. She teaches in UCLA in Los Angeles, their Extension Writers Program course. And she has been received for two of her favorite awards are the Woman of the Year in Arts and Entertainment, given by members of the California Legislature, and Women Who Make Life Happen, given by the Pasadena Weekly newspaper. Carolyn's also an award-winning poet. She's a novelist, and she loves passing along tricks, tips, of the publishing trade that she's learned all about marketing. So, Carolyn, welcome back. Welcome back to AuthorU-Your Guide to Book Publishing.
Oh, it's always good to be with you, even if I've been doing this for a gazillion years. I never get tired of it.
Well, you know, I actually had my daughter was talking with me yesterday because we were talking about her sister, her other daughter, my other daughter, and that she was laid off. Pre-COVID, and, you know, the money's running out and all that, and what are you doing? What are you doing? And Shelley was saying to her sibling, you know, sometimes you just have to take a job, even if you don't love it, and keep looking and then do the transition again. Otherwise, you're going to be working until you drop dead. And I said, well, gee, Shelley, I kind of think I'm going to probably work till at least my mind stops or I drop dead, whichever happens first. And she says, but Mom, you love what you do. You love working with authors. You love strategizing. You love coming up with ideas and brainstorming. And I do. And Carolyn, so do you. So that's what this is all about today.
Yeah. Yeah. It never feels old. I just received a big box of a new book in its second edition. There were lots and lots and lots of them in the box, and all shiny and new. And, you know, it's the publishing is something that kind of excitement can continue. I mean, we keep having it. One book, 5 books, 15 books. It just doesn't get old. I opened that book and squealed. It was like,
I know.
Really? And I said, yeah, really?
Yeah, and I did this. This is my baby.
Yeah,
It reminds me when I had one of my pregnancies was very difficult, and I thought, oh my God, am I ever going to get through this? I will never have another baby again. And of course, when the baby arrives finally and you fall in love, it's like opening that box. Oh my God, this is so fabulous. This is so perfect. This is so beautiful. I'll do it again.
Well, it is a little bit like that, even in terms of the pain, because obviously, for most people, there's some pain involved with putting a book out, regardless of how they're published, and you forget that really quickly once you've got it in your hands, don't you? Then you're all about just making sure it gets raised up right.
Well, it is, and I have to say, sometimes it's more difficult. I think that, as I saw the segue here, is that one of the hardest things for a lot of authors, unless they're doing just print on demand, not having a print run done, but a print on demand format, is they're okay in the print on demand. But if they're actually having a print run, getting them up on Amazon today, unless you're underneath the old Advantage program that they shut down last May of 2019, suspended it is the better word. It has been Amazon seller, the seller place has been equivalent to having 3 root canals in the same day. It has been.
You do tell. Not exactly what any of us expected, but at the same time, they're so essential. They're just so essential. It's not something we can say, oh, well, we're independent, or or make any excuse. Without Amazon, a book just doesn't have the same chance that it has with Amazon.
And I get after my Amazon snobs that you have to be on Amazon if you want the opportunity for, really global recognition, and especially here in the United States. But we digress. Okay, so let's jump into this.
I'm not sure it's digressing. I mean,
well, it's all Amazon's important. I think it's essential.
I think we just hit on a really good tip here.
Well,
okay, so but today we want to talk about marketing, right?
Oh, yes, and you always say marketing on a budget is always good.
Well, I think it's especially good because many times, even after we publish several books, we have no idea how well that book is going to do in terms of our own profit. And so to just go into it with the idea that, which is frankly what I did with my first book. I actually inherited $35,000 this was back in 2001, from an aunt. And I just was, I figured she would understand if that's what I did with my money, was just make sure that I got the very best PR person and et cetera. And I had a marketing background, but not a marketing in the publishing industry. And the book did very well, but it certainly did not make back the $35,000, even though it was traditionally published. Mm-hmm. And so that's what led me to writing books for writers about marketing, was that there are just so many things, that pitfalls, and it didn't hurt my budget that much. We recently sold a chain of stores, and we're doing well, but there are people who really suffer when they spend too much money on a book, whether it's their first or their 15th.
Well, you're so right. And I think it's important to let's rear the publicity head up. I too had, my first 18 books were with New York. So I always had a publicist in tow, and I hired a separate publicist on top of it. Here's the truthiness. A publicist doesn't guarantee any books will be sold.
That's
It
right.
doesn't guarantee it.
I mean, they'd be crazy to. They can't. They can't
No.
any more than we could guarantee that for ourselves.
Exactly. And if they do guarantee that, then you better run, because you cannot guarantee. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know who's going to feature you or pick. You just don't know. I remember that the first time I hit on Oprah, and I was on Oprah several times. First time I was on Oprah, I was going to sell a gazillion of these books. No, it didn't. Because what I didn't realize is Oprah was really all about Oprah. So.
And so many people and publishers, some of the partner publishers, or what used to be called vanity publishers, which is kind of it's a put down. I really don't like to use the word, but there are times when you need to clearly define what we're talking about. They have programs where they will send your book for $395, a minor $395 fee to Oprah. Well, you can imagine where that box of books. I mean, 12 authors might bite into that. They put them in a box. They send them to Oprah. I'm not saying that they don't do what they say they're going to do, but Oprah doesn't open that box. She sends them right to a library or to Goodwill or wherever. That's not the way to reach Oprah. You could you could do a whole POD on how to reach Oprah. At least you reached her, and it didn't probably cost you $395. That
exactly.
Was totally wasted
and you know
to
what?
do it.
We're going to come up to our first break, but we can give them, if they really want to hit Oprah and Ellen and all that, we can give you one tip on how to at least give it a better chance, and you can do it yourself. We'll be right back. It's AuthorU, your guide to book publishing. With me is Carolyn Howard Johnson with more tips.
This is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. And we'll be right back with more great information right after these.
Is there a book in you? Or another? AuthorU shows you how to create, develop, and publish your book without being hoodwinked. If you already have a book out, you will find a supportive and brainstorming community that is connected and creative, no matter where you live. AuthorU brings in national experts for its book camps and annual AuthorU extravaganza. It has regular meetings and delivers webinars for its members on timely topics. Through AuthorU's extensive network, members enjoy exclusive benefits, including significant discounts for a variety of services necessary to publishing. AuthorU is the premier authoring resource in the country, creating community, education, guidance, vision, and success for the serious author. If you want to create a book that has pizzazz, punch, and panache, AuthorU is for you. Timely author and publishing tips and articles are posted on its social media platforms, and it is free. Discover AuthorU, where authors go to become seriously successful. Join AuthorU today at AuthorU.org. Are you confused about publishing options? Do you know which printing option is best for your book? Does your stomach flip when you think about selling books? Or do you feel overwhelmed with what to do about book marketing and publicity? Get the answers and much more. Get them and from someone who knows publishing inside and out from both the traditional and independent sides how to make a successful book. You can't do it alone without paying the price. You can spend your money creating a book that turns out to be so-so, or you can create a book that looks and feels classy, builds your brand and platform, and is a success, a bestseller. It is your choice. You choose. If you want author and publishing success, you want Judith Briles as your book coach. Sign up for her weekly blogs and e-zine at thebookshepherd.com.
Welcome back to your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. If you want to write and publish a book, if you want to be successful as an author, your guide to book publishing, everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask, is for you. Stay tuned and you'll hear about statistics, scenarios, and strategies on what to do now to get you published. So let's get back to the show. And here again is your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
With me today is the fabulous marketing genius for those of us who don't want to spend big bucks, Carolyn Howard-Johnson. She's the author of the Frugal book series, and the book that we're really kissing on today is the one that I would encourage you to get, called the Frugal Book Promoter. So our series is how to do it frugally. So we're talking about saving big bucks. And the tip we wanted to leave you with, if your druthers is to be on the Oprah, the Ellens, the fill in the blank, here's what you're going to do. You're going to watch the show. Always a good idea to see how they're going. Secondly, watch where the producers come up. Look for the key names. That's who you will send the book to. And send it to a couple of them. Give them a pitch. Your pitch better be short, to the point, and it has to deal with, here's the problem, here's the cause, here's the effect, how many people involved, and you've got the paying solution. It's that easy. And see if it hits that way. It's only going to cost you shipping of your book, your time in doing the label, getting it out, getting a letter put together. That's it. You don't have to spend $1 gazillion on a full-time publicist, at least for a lot of this stuff. That's my suggestion. That's my tip for the group. What you want to add to that, Carolyn?
I think you're absolutely right on. I believe that the author is always your best own PR person. That doesn't mean that occasions won't arise where you want or need to hire one for something, usually for something a specific need, but the author is the one with the passion. The author is the one who knows her book the best. You can do a better job than a publicist who's probably going to be spread more thinly and really can't possibly know what you know about the angles, the audience for your book, where it belongs, etc. She's also limited by the number of contacts she has. There are people that you have in your file, either personally or professionally, that she doesn't. So, you go for it. If you
I'm just saying,
wall, then maybe you want help. But try it yourself. It's a learning experience, too. A learning experience you can't possibly pay enough to get.
Yeah, that's right. And once you land something of it, to have to pay to get on some of those shows, or advertising, you think of advertising, that's a lot of money. And I'll tell you, one of the other things, you follow up.
I don't believe in paying to get on a show that's very similar to one that you don't have to pay to get on. It's a nice barter to go on to a show free for no. You don't charge them, but they don't charge you. I think that is one of the things that more broadly happens throughout the industry. Pay for reviews? No. Pay for radio shows? No. You've got something to offer these, and they need the content. So why are you paying them to do it?
That's exactly right. And then I'll just say one more thing here, and then I want to get into marketing books. That the other thing is I know that one of my books was on toxic workplaces and female-dominated toxic workplaces, and specifically during the Linda Tripp, Monica Lewinsky era. Now I'm going back a few years, but but I had a book out called Woman to Woman from Sabotage Support. I actually called, it was a CNBC, what you could call, you could find out who the head producer was for, say, a segment. And I got her on the phone and I pitched it. She was so intrigued by what I was saying. And she finally said, it was a pleasure to hear your voice, to hear your energy, to hear the way you were flexible. You could add very quickly to something. We're going to have you on. Are you available in 2 days? I ended up on that show for like a month every day after that. So
you can't beat that, can you? You just as now that we mention it, in the Frugal book promoter that you mentioned, it coming out of the when the show first started, there is an actual script by one of the very first PR people I ever met at a writers' conference, and she gladly shared it with me. It's in the appendix, and it's something that anyone can take and adapt to their own needs for the way to approach a person when you're pitching your appearance on a show or other kind of appearance. It's a wonderful little script.
Great. So everyone, go get the Frugal book promoter. It's in print and ebook. Go get it. All right. So with that said, Carol, let's come back into and let's just dive into some of these ways. Let me just ask you, what's the most frugal way to go about learning what you need to know about marketing, about publishing? What's the most frugal way without,
we just touched on that, Judith. Books, your books, my books. There is what you know about all the people out there because you also do writers' conferences, which is one of my other favorite ways. But it's generally a bit more expensive than buying the books of people who have been around the industry, know what they're talking about, have the passion, and it gives you the basis then for moving ahead. It gives you a stick to measure what you really might need to pay for and don't need to pay for. It puts you in a better position to really understand the business you are in, which is, after all, a business. I mean, we love what we're doing, but it's still a business. So, books. Judith has a raft of them.
Yes, as a matter of fact, I do.
Just for authors. Specifically aimed at your needs, and so do I.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I do have, and then actually, that you have them out there. Do they sometimes get dated a little bit? Yeah, but that's okay. There's going to be enough nuggets in there that is going to be worth every nickel you spend on something.
Absolutely.
And just go through it. And I think from the 7 sins of publishing, which include you don't get an editor, you don't have a professional designer, etc. But and you don't market your books, which is what we're talking about today. So, Carolyn, I guess I'm going to jump right into this. I hear from so many authors, and you've heard it a gazillion times too, but I just want to be writing. I just want to write. I don't want to market this. I don't know how to market. I don't know how to sell. What do you say to them?
Yes, we do hear that a zillion times, don't we?
Oh, yeah.
You can market and write. A good portion of our marketing is writing. So if you're really serious about that, you're super shy, you really suffer from what I call the fear of marketing, then you need to know 2 things. First of all, you need to know that you have been infected by a bug, that this is marketing, and that real marketing, great marketing, is not problematic. It is doing exactly what you're doing with your book, which is sharing with other people and finding out what they need, and trying to give them what they want, whether it's entertainment because it's a mystery, or whether it's something else, and then really giving of yourself in front of a room to talk to them with another book, etc. Marketing isn't about selling. It's about helping other people, connecting with other people, networking. And that's got to be something that all of us really like to do. But it's also just about writing. You might have a little learning curve ahead of you. You might end up needing to learn to write a pitch, but that's writing. Writing an article, excerpting an article from your book, excerpting a scene from your fiction book, putting it on a blog, that's writing. So a lot of the stuff that we think is marketing really is writing.
And so we get over that. So you're a writer, people. Write it. Get out there and write your copy.
Yeah.
Put it together.
There's a really neat book out there called Blog Your Book. Nina Amir.
Yes.
I met her originally at a book expo in New York, like 15 years ago. We are still in contact. She writes really good books for writers. And she blogs a chapter a week, and this book tells you exactly how to go about that. So the blog then becomes the marketing aspects of your book, or one of the marketing aspects, and it's writing, and you end up with a book for it, which is obviously writing. So basically, I look at people like that and say, "Oh, let's get over that. Let's get past that. Let's find a worked way around that psychologically, and then in reality."
Yeah, and that starts bringing that all together too. All right, so let me ask you this: that I believe I've always said that social networking, social marketing, the social medium is the town hall for marketing. How do you feel about that?
Well, again, social media is just making friends, just making contacts, just working with people. I think a lot of people who go into it because they don't like marketing think that they have to say, "Buy my book." And that's a kiss of death. That's ridiculous. That's not what we're doing when we're marketing. I love Twitter because it does allow us to be a little more direct about our marketing on Twitter. It's not frowned upon. But haven't we been socially marketing our entire lives? Weren't we marketing back in the? I know if you're anywhere near my age, back in the 60s, weren't we marketing when we got up in the morning and went to an interview and combed the rats out of our hair and chose the suit we were going to wear to the interview?
Yep, we did. Okay, hold that thought. We're gonna come back and talk about getting the rats out of your social media posting and maybe how to expand it for marketing.
This is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. And we'll be right back with more great information right after these.
Discover the power of you and your book at the Judith Briles Unplugged events. Each summer, Judith Briles Book Marketing Unplugged unfolds over 3 intensive days working with just Judith. You get publishing strategies, author and book platforms, book marketing panache and pizzazz, and authoring tools to take you and your book to rock star success. In the fall and winter, Judith Briles Speaking Unplugged includes Judith as your coach and mentor during 2 powerful days. You will learn how to structure a speech, how to create openings and closings, how to find gigs that pay you and sell your books, and you will get one-on-one coaching. Go to thebookshepherd.com and click on the Events tab to learn how to participate at the next Unplugged Workshop event.
Congratulations on getting your book published. The effort you put into your work is truly commendable. But what's next? What will happen to all the knowledge you have worked so hard to acquire to produce your book? Here at TogiNet Radio, we can provide you a platform to keep your knowledge working for you through the power of podcast. The subjects our podcasts cover are as varied as the grains of sand on a beach. From life coaching to military resources to business success, even to the paranormal. We have a place for everyone. To get started on your next step, call Scott at 903-787-5880 or email him at scott@toginetradio.com. That's SCOTT at TOGINETRADIO.com.
Welcome back to your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. Coming up, you'll hear more about statistics, scenarios, and strategies on what to do now to get you published. So let's get back to the show. And here again is your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
One of the challenges when you get old friends together or we haven't seen each other for a couple of years is we segue and we talk about other stuff, but we want to really nail down in our last two segments a lot of these tips to get you in. So the fear, and Carolyn, Carolyn Howard Johnson is with us, and the fear that authors have about marketing, and I loved what she said, marketing is not selling. It's not selling. It's making yourself, it's an awareness factor. It's awareness factor that people start recognizing you and there's a connection with what it is because every author is a problem solver. Understand that, all of you. You are a problem solver. As Carolyn says, whether you're supplying entertainment because you just love mysteries and thrillers, you're solving that problem. That's what the person's looking for. Or you're like someone like me who wrote a lot of books about conflict resolution. I created a whole new conflict resolution script that was so effective that people were buying it like crazy that I ended up selling bookmarks instead of giving away. How's that going?
Well, you solved the problem there, didn't you? You're running out. It becomes a commodity.
My solution became a commodity, another commodity of a commodity. And then, I write about publishing, solving the how-tos, whether it's avoiding mistakes, whether it's building that $1 million speech, whether it is, looking for tips, little writing tips in my Snappy, Sassy, Salty books. We are problem solvers, and so are you. And that's what your marketing goes into. So if you could transition yourself.
You mentioned the author who says, I really don't want to market. I really don't like to market. It's especially surprising in the United States. We are a capitalist society. And that's, we're reared. We're made to be entrepreneurs. A whole lot of us, and the ones who aren't still believe in making a profit. So this idea that somehow marketing is beneath us because we're creative. The most creative products in the world that got any place that we think of as the things that we love the most have had superb marketers behind them, either the person who developed them, or the person who founded them, or someone helped them market it. Someone helped them get it out there. So either the person themselves, but generally, if you work as a team, the more you know about marketing, the better partner you make for somebody else too.
And that somebody else could just be you. You could be a solo act. So, I have a question, Carolyn. What are some of the budget boo-boos that you've experienced, you've observed, maybe you did yourself?
Okay, the first budget the first big mistake people make is waiting until they're in deep doo-doo to go to an expert, whether they're going to a book, or whether they're going to a coach, or whether they're going to a PR person. There's a certain amount of information you need to avoid those boo-boos right up front. And the first one is paying a fortune to have your book published from a company that is out there to make a profit too, but gives you no personal attention and doesn't even supply a decent editor. Especially when you can do that yourself.
Well, you should certainly do the first run of it yourself.
And pick your own cover designer and find your own best formatter and get advice from from situations like this podcast. You can do it completely yourself. My first book after that first one that I spent too much money on, which was a literary novel, and by the way, won the Publishers award for the award for the year for the marketing I did. The next one I did myself, and I did everything myself, and that was the Frugal Book Promoter, the first edition. I went to UCLA, pitched myself as a teacher, and said that I was interested in publishing an ebook that would teach people how to market. And then I just did it myself, starting from scratch, one step at a time. Mm-hmm. And it didn't cost me anything. I did it on Amazon.
Except for your time in learning the ropes. I always think that screwing up, Carolyn, is one of the best learning things that you can do.
Right. No out of pocket. Unlike that first book with $35,000 out of pocket. Mm-hmm. And it certainly wasn't gorgeous. It was the first effort. But ebooks don't require so much. And then eventually I did it in a paper. That was the first edition. But we learn as we go, and we also can hire. I mean, I have a couple of excellent cover designers now. It's one place where I do think it's a good thing to spend some money, but it still doesn't have to be a lot, and it certainly isn't $5,000 that you would have to pay for some of these big services that do it for you, and just they're not designed at all. They're identifiably not professional. Mm-hmm. So that's the first big one. And beyond that, the second biggest one I see is people who pay for reviews, because reviews are part of the journalism tradition. So there's an ethical standard for reviews. And the people you want to impress the most are the people like newspaper editors, the people that are in the profession. And they know a paid-for review when they see one. And paid-for reviews, by definition, don't have any credibility. You paid for it, so how can the person writing it really be fair and honest? Now, they can be, but that's not the view of the librarians who are going to be buying your books, of the bookstore buyers who are going to be buying your books, on down the line. Mm-hmm. So, and it's something you can get for yourself. You know, you can offer on Goodreads or on Twitter. I've got a book. I'll send you a book if you will review my book, and you will get reviews. You'll get Amazon reviews. You'll get blurbs that you can excerpt from reviews that you can then reuse for your other marketing. I mean, they can be a gold mine, and they don't cost you anything more than the effort and the cost of your book and the shipping. So why are you paying $595 to Kirkus for a review?
Exactly. So let me ask you this. Do you have a suggested, or is that in our Frugal Book Promoter? Do you have
there's some in the Frugal Book Promoter, but there's a whole book in that series. It's the third in the series. It's called How to Get Great Book Reviews Frugally and Ethically.
All right. So what would be a line reach out? Because this is one of the discussions every Friday morning. I do a live private coaching group for authors. And that one of the questions it really came up with was book reviews recently. How do you get them? And I said, well, you have to ask. That's what I would suggest. That's where you start.
Yes, and you find out how to write a query letter in The Frugal Editor. You find out not only that, but in all of my books at the end there's appendixes that will have sample query letters, because query letters run the gamut. It's not going to tell you exactly how you should write your query letter, but they are samples. They're not really templates. They're samples, and you adapt them to your needs for whatever it is you're trying to get. Whether it's to get the ability to talk to a producer of one of the shows that that Judith just mentioned a little while ago on this program, or whether it's to get a review, you write a query letter, and then that's how you approach just about everything major that you're going to be doing. So there's a writing assignment for you, kiddos. It's writing.
We're back to the writing.
A great query letter is a real talent, and your voice should show through. And in the Frugal Editor, I interviewed 100 different agents to find out what their pet peeves, query letter pet peeves were. And most of the things that they told me, by the way, most of them had great senses of humor. Most of the things that they were told me are not things that you usually hear. They were things like they were true pet peeves. They were things that they weren't about grammar or typos, or they were about the things that they, as an example, do not say your book is entitled. Your book is not entitled, it's titled. Little stuff that just doesn't occur to a newcomer.
Yeah, and that is a boo-boo. What other? Let me ask you. We're almost up to our next break, but in a minute, what's another boo-boo that you commonly see?
Another boo-boo that costs you a lot of money is hiring a PR person to do everything, as opposed to hiring them to do a specific job that you need to have done. For one thing, a PR person is only as good as you are in terms of giving input. So you need to work with them, and you need to use it as a learning experience, so maybe next time you don't have to hire them for the same thing. But you need to be able to get into a specific kind of thing where you can really kind of lead them through it in terms of the content of your book, the kind of pitches that they can use, etc. And if they're doing everything all at once, they can't do that.
No, I really do believe that. That is so important. All right, so when we come back, we're going to take our final break. But I'd love to have Carolyn, let's talk on some things that people can do during this COVID time that we're all in. All right, with that, we're with Carolyn Howard-Johnson. This is AuthorU, your guide to book publishing.
This is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. And we'll be right back with more great information right after these.
The book shepherding concept is simple. The publishing world is changing, and so must you. You need an experienced shepherd and guide to collaborate with you as you create, strategize, develop, publish, and achieve your publishing goals. Publishing is riddled with obstacles, sometimes nightmares for the author. You do not need more problems. You want solutions. Dr. Judith Briles will shepherd you through the maze and chaos. At times, she has had to step in and rescue a book that has been sabotaged by a publisher, by a publishing service provider, and sometimes even by the author. If you want author and book success, connect with her today at thebookshepherd.com.
Welcome back to your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. If you want to write and publish a book, if you want to be successful as an author, your guide to book publishing, everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask, is for you. Stay tuned and you'll hear about statistics, scenarios, and strategies on what to do now to get you published. So let's get back to the show. And here again is your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
Well, within this last segment, I felt it was important because COVID, has been with us most of 2020. Who knows how long it's going to last? I also know that there's always going to be something that's going to hold you back. So, Carolyn, my question for you is, what can people do, what can authors do during this COVID time to really push out their marketing where they just stay put basically. And two, what else is out there they should consider doing that can really modify everything they do in marketing? Right now, it's difficult to sell books in person, like you and I do a lot at writers' conferences. Okay, so those are off the table right now. What else can we do?
Yes, well, we have Zoom. And so this fall, I'm doing a big writers' conference in Wisconsin that I was really hired to do originally because, in person. So we've got Zoom. But aside from that, I've been saying for a long time, pre-COVID certainly, that one of the best ways to market our book is actually tailor-made to the shy author who would prefer to sit behind their computer and not market, the very person we talked about several times in this podcast. We can reach so many more people so much more quickly on the net if we will but use the tools that are provided there. And so this is a good time to update your blog. This is a good time to start a new blog. This is a new time to go back through all of your old blog posts if you've been at it, rewrite them, and start sending out free articles to other bloggers. You remember the great Dan Pointer? I'm sure you do, Judith.
Well, it's very close to Dan.
He used to say, don't have a blog of your own. Utilize everybody else's blogs. So one way to do that is to write them a query letter telling them that you have a cache of articles that you would be happy to provide or do an exclusive. Now, I don't believe in exclusives unless you're being paid, but I do believe in bartering, which is really what you're doing. You're giving away an article or an excerpt from your book for the privilege of being marketed on their blog. And with that in light, when you submit that, don't forget to include an about the author bio at the end. You can't expect your blogger to do that for you, or if she's going to do it for you, she won't do nearly the same job that you do because you know what you want featured and you know what specifically you're after in terms of marketing your own book in that moment. So that's one thing you can do. You can go back to your own article list and start thinking about writing a new book. You can take a book that hasn't sold or you thought you would produce and finish it up. My husband and I were actually on a cruise in the middle of the Indian Ocean when COVID suddenly became known around the world, and we were shanghaied in the middle of the ocean for 2 solid weeks before we could get back into a port to get home.
Whoa!
What did we do at that time? I told you a little bit about the memoir that I'm writing. We went to our computers. We pulled out my memoir. He started editing it for me, and I started rewriting a draft. And we weren't at all bored. They fed us well, and we had a ball. It was creative. We went out on the deck where we were alone and did our creative thing. We wrote what could be better. We weren't at all upset. There were a few people on the cruise who were, but we weren't. So redo something that hasn't sold or that you haven't produced like you thought you would. Tons of things to do.
There are tons of things to do a revamping and do all that. And I do love your tip that you gave. Don't go exclusive with anybody unless you get paid for it. And a lot of these, actually, bloggers who want you to guest blog, they want you to sign a thing that you will not show up, your guest post for a year. And I'm going, what nonsense is that? What nonsense is that?
Yeah, and if they do want you to do an exclusive, then you're in a bar, and you can't get anywhere by talking about a fee, a per word fee preferably. Then then you could revert to something like, how about a year's worth of advertising in your newsletter, something of real major value rather than just a trade for article for blog post. Most of the bloggers have something where they will sell a website ad or a newsletter ad or something like that, so that you're really getting something specifically of marketing value for the article that you're writing. And you could also rewrite an article in a situation like that, so you're not starting from scratch.
Mm-hmm. Makes a huge difference, doesn't it? Yeah, and we definitely want to go for that. So maybe we'll go back to suggest to you, blog your blog, or what was it? What was Nina Amir's book?
Oh yeah, now you've got me doing it. Nina Amir, A-M-I-R.
Yeah, that's her. But the book was called what?
Blog Your Book.
Oh, blog your book. Okay. And I'm a huge believer in that. I mean, and those of you who have been blogging, here's a tip. Spend some time. Tuck away a day. Go through all your blogs. Get them into categories. You've got write a little front page of this is what's going to be revealed. Here's the problem, cause, effect, solution kind of thing. And put it together, and you've got a new book. Push it out.
Yeah. And be sure to have a couple of readers look at it. Because this is obviously patchwork, you don't want it to appear that way. So this is a really good time to especially utilize your critique group, or a fellow writing friend or whatever, to see what kind of input they have for you after you once kind of get a patch together.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so I have a question, and I want to ask you about your grammar book real quick before we exit. But if you take on learning a new way to market one thing, what would be the technique you'd want to learn about? That's from me to you.
The one most important technique I think people should learn about is speaking. And of course, there are free organizations that will help you learn to speak. I think speaking that includes the ability to teach, eventually, or can if those two things are fantastic. Teaching, as an example, is great for poets because their students buy poetry books, and frankly, not a lot of other people do. So, so this speaking, the idea of speaking or teaching, is a great way to build your readership. And to be of service to the industry and to yourself.
Well, you and I are the choir here, and I know that's how I sold 1 million books,
yes,
1 million copies of my books.
I'm sure it is. But the other way you sell a million books is because your books are put together beautifully.
Oh, thank you so much. So, and the book I'm talking about for all of you is How to Write $1 Million Speech. It won 9 National Book Awards. It is worth your while. The contract on all the elements, the chapter on how all the elements of a contract is worth its weight in gold. So, all right. So let's kiss on. Are you
going to send that one to me?
I will send it to you. I thought I had, but I'm glad to send it to you again.
No, I will reread it again and then make sure it gets into the hands of somebody else who needs it.
Yeah, I will. All right, so I'll write that down.
I don't
Carolyn?
give them to libraries because libraries tend not to do a very good job with the donated books these days. There's another tip for you. I mean, maybe yours does. Double check, but
no.
They don't. They often resell them for a dime, which isn't so bad. But sometimes they don't even bother to do that. They just give them away to Goodwill.
Actually, they put them up on resale on Amazon. A lot of them have Amazon seller accounts, and that's where these calls I get from authors who are going berserk. My book is being sold for blah 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 blah. I didn't put it up. I don't know. And I said they're being rebought and repositioned, or you had them out for review. They got resold, etc. Carolyn, let's kiss on very quickly. What's the name of your new book on grammar?
My ebook on grammar, actually Word Trippers and Style Choice, and it's called Great Little Last-Minute Editing Tips, and Modern History Press has just published it. It will be released next month on the 1st, and right right now it's for pre-sale. So great little last-minute editing tips for writers. It's inexpensive, $2.99 for an ebook, and really a fun little read, especially if you are reluctant to break rules.
Oh, I love breaking rules. I love breaking rules.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised, Judith. Knowing you just a little bit as I do, I'm not surprised. But see, okay. It comes from having the confidence of having somebody tell you that they can do that. And a lot of the grammar rules, as an example, that we think are rules aren't rules anyway.
And also people, those of you who are interested in poetry, one of the beauties of poetry is they don't have rules. You just get going.
Yes.
Write it.
Yes.
The
beauty of making up your own words. Go back and read Lewis Carroll's Jabberwocky. So much fun. And hardly a word in there you'd recognize.
Oh, no. Makes no sense. Before we exit, first of all, I want to thank you, Carolyn, for being with us once more.
Sure.
Secondly, let me give you a review tip the discussion that came up. Because I had someone out of the blue said, would you review my book? And I said, I don't know your book. Actually, do I know you? But he was persistent, and he said, well, I'll here you can read an ebook. And I said, you know what? I don't read ebooks. I'm on the computer 12, sometimes 14 hours a day.
I don't either. I agree. Yep.
So I have to have a print book. Here's what he did. He said he went on Amazon. He sent me a gift card to buy his book. Well, now I have to buy it, which I did, and I will post a review. Now, I don't know which process he is on Amazon, but he gets a percentage. But here's an idea for ebooks people, that if you want to get reviews and you could send it out, you could ask people, I will be delighted to send you a pass for, a coupon to get the ebook for free and that. And what you do is you send them a gift card for the ebook. If your ebook is over $2.99, under $9.99, you're going to get 70% of it back. So it's a $5 book. Amazon is going to give you $3.50 back. So the cost of getting your review, who now you are going to capture their email, is $1.50. That's cheap. And with that, we'll close off. It's AuthorU, your guide to book publishing. Have a fabulous publishing and writing week. And thank you again, Carolyn.
Oh, you're welcome. That was a fantastic tip. Right down to the penny.
Thank you for being a part of Your Guide to Book Publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. Each week,